You know, when I got a call from Ray Cole to do this, the very day, I believe it was March 14th, that was the very day you signed with the New York Jets or said you were going to agree to terms with the New York Jets. And I thought to myself, if we were doing this interview right now on ESPN, it would be the moment you came through with the Packers, got together with Aaron Rodgers, and then signed this big deal with the Jets. But everybody here in this room probably isn't interested in that because Character Counts is probably everything it took to get to this point, right? Nobody talks about that, right? On TV, we're as guilty about it as anybody. Right. You, Rodgers, the Jets. Rodgers with the Jets. But it's the story to get here is what I want to talk about. This is my favorite anecdote about this guy. I don't know how many people in the room know this. I was gobsmacked when I learned this. If we do an interview with an NFL offseason player now, 90% of the time, the guy's coming to his house from Miami, LA, or New York. You got an off-season house where?
Bondurant, Iowa.
Yep. Can you please elaborate on
Where is that?
Can you elaborate on that? Why Bondurant?
Why Bondurant? Well, one, thankfully, Todd McKinney and good friends of ours, whatever, sold it to us. But yeah, just to invest my money and be back in Iowa. Really, I mean, like my mom stated, she's a fourth grade teacher. Since graduating Iowa State, I haven't really had much time to be able to spend here. Yeah. I do enjoy my warmer weather in the off season, so coming back here kind of makes it a little bit harder. But I just wanted to be back here, be around my family, and Iowa State be an example for those guys, but also just the community, the kids.
I want to go step by step through this because I think sequentially is the way to do this for people that are very familiar with your story, like Jamie, like Coach Campbell, who I know is here, John Walters, who called every single play of your career, and my old boss, some gritty, great plays there for sure. This is antithetical to Character Counts, but it's not, because confidence is really important. We talked about grit and perseverance, but whatever you do for a living, you're a TV reporter like Janae, you're a public speaker like Sipker, you're great in business like Ray. There's nothing like the feeling of the first time thinking, I'm good at this. I'm good. When was the first, it could have been a hit on a kid, it could have been a catch, it could have been Pop Warner, could have been with Coach Campbell. When's the first time in your life you said, I'm really good at this?
It's hard to say that I never thought that, honestly.
Confidence, right?
Yeah, I've always had a lot of confidence in myself and belief in myself, and more so, I didn't really care what other people said. You know, I really knew where I wanted to be in life, and this is being here on this stage, even though this isn't necessarily a goal that I set out to do and accomplish, you know, I knew it would be part of my journey on where the end result, where I wanted to take my career and everything. So, yeah, back to when I was probably 5 or 6 years old is where I saw myself here today. All
right, I know you're out of school. We're going to pop quiz you here. You ready?
Yep.
What happened to you on May 29th, 2012?
May 29th, 2012. My first scholarship.
You got it.
Iowa State. Paul Rhodes called me.
What was that feeling like?
Oh, wow, that was an unbelievable feeling. Obviously, I've been an Iowa State fan since a little kid, following the footsteps of my dad and brother. But getting that first scholarship was probably the biggest thing, just to give me that ultimate boost and confidence in myself, knowing that I could play at the collegiate level and to pursue my dreams.
It's well known you could have literally gone anywhere. And college is a little different today with the NIL than it was back then.
Most stuff.
But as a couple people told me, yeah, that's an understatement. Right, Coach Campbell? That's two things people told me about you. You're an Iowa State legend, but most importantly, you're an Iowa State legacy, right? That's really important too. Take me through the contours of your character to say, Notre Dame could be calling, LSU could be calling, I'm going to Ames.
Yeah, it really came down to when I closed my eyes and envisioned myself. I couldn't picture myself not being in the Cardinal and gold. That was a big thing for me. Yeah, give a round of applause. And ultimately, going back to your previous question, I knew I'd be in the NFL. I knew I'd have a long-lasting career, and I'd do a lot of great things. So to me, college is the vessel to the professional level, obviously. So it didn't matter what school I was going to, because I knew I was going to succeed there and continue success as well.
Let's get into the grit and perseverance, because those were two of the core tenets for Character Counts. You commit to Coach Rhodes, and you're there for his last 2 years and the first 2 years of Matt Campbell. Obviously, I think it's pretty clear Coach Campbell's been a certified hit, but you don't know that. You could have went anywhere, Halfway through, you're uprooted, got a brand new coach. Again, it's not the way it is today. It's just not so easy to get up and leave anymore like it is. What did it take to stick through that?
When I first committed to Iowa State, enrolled up in Ames, I wanted to leave a lasting legacy. I think my father, he left a great legacy for our name up at the university and just following his footsteps and everything. But already being there for 2 years and everything, I knew that, I only wanted to stay one more year with Campbell, but he convinced me to stay another season. But really, and going into that as well, I came back my senior year because I felt like I still had a lot left to prove, a lot left to finish off and to leave a legacy. And my first 3 years, we won 8 games, and my last season, we won 8 games. So
there you go.
Just to be able to be a part of that, that piece to get the ball rolling there and to see the success that they continue to have there was huge for me. And to be a part of that last senior class was a big significance.
There's one thing I mentioned to you while we were eating, but I think this is notable. Your best year, your 1,000-yard receiving year, came in Coach Campbell's first year. And any coach, no matter what school, always sort of has that honeymoon first year, got to get his guys in. They went 3-9. Obviously, we know the success since then. What do you think it took with all that upheaval, new players, new system, to have your best year in a transition year for the program?
Yeah, I just wanted to be the guy everyone could rely on, whether it be the coaches, the fans, my teammates. So in that year especially, we didn't really have too much success outside of myself to rely on. So I took it upon myself to make sure I was putting in the work, being a leader on the field, in the weight room, and just being someone that could be relied on.
Now the story, it's interesting. Now it gets really interesting. Where did you think you were going to be drafted?
Realistically?
Yeah.
Like 3rd round, probably.
3rd round.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know in the room, I'm sure most do, Allen went undrafted. Take me through, again, character here. This is big. A lot of guys can go into orthopedic sales, right? They can do all sorts of stuff. You're a popular guy, you're well-liked. It is really hard to make the NFL. Plenty of guys have done it, but to stick as an undrafted guy. Take me back. The draft is over. You're undrafted. What is the next week of your life like?
A lot of contemplation, a lot of doubting, a lot of questioning, and a lot of hope dissipating, to say the least. But I've kind of looked at my journey as just as if you were to take a long car ride. If you're going from New York to LA, you get on your destination, you're driving, and maybe you have a detour, and your end goal is to get to Los Angeles, but that doesn't mean that there's only one way to get there. Mm-hmm. So I kind of took that as my opportunity with going undrafted, understanding, I wanted to get that second contract and, continue on after that. So I knew that getting drafted would help that, but ultimately it wouldn't prevent me from getting there. And so I just kept staying at it, kept believing in myself, working hard, and, this is the next step.
So the Jags call, they put you on the practice squad. What's that moment like? That's the first step.
That was the first step. They were the only team that saw me as a wide receiver. So every other team that was interested saw me as a tight end. And like my parents know, I'm very stubborn. And I didn't want to move to tight end at that time. Still don't. But yeah, they're the only team to see me at that position. And it ended up being a blessing because that's where I met Nathaniel Hackett, who was the offensive coordinator there. He ended up being in Green Bay during my 1st 3 years there, and will continue to be my offensive coordinator when I get to the Jets. So it was just one of those moments where, it's hard to really see the full benefit of it, mm-hmm. but I was able to maximize my opportunity, make good connections, and to grow.
All right, I want you to glow for 1 second. We're airing the draft on ESPN in a couple of weeks on April 27th, 28th, and 29th. Considering the type of player you were in college and the type of player you've turned out to be, what the hell was everybody thinking?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. Even during I was fortunate enough to go to the NFL Combine. Yeah. And, you do your media stuff there. And even then, I'm sure you guys can pull it up. I told them that I was going to be the most impactful and have a great career. And funny, because I was up at Iowa State the other day with some of the coaches, and we went through the list of 32, 33 receivers that were drafted. And there's maybe 3 or 4 that have a contract like mine,
Right.
to say the least. So it's funny how it all works out. Yeah. Blessings. It's funny how it all works out. You know, I set out for this goal to accomplish it and everything, and it didn't start off the way that I wanted to, but I was still able to, you know, still believe and achieve the dream that I set out when I was 5, 6 years old, even though it wasn't going how I wanted to. And, you know, there's been other bumps and valleys throughout my time being in Green Bay and Jacksonville as well to get to this point. But it's always just about staying on your focus and just maintaining good faith.
Let's talk about a couple things that really showed your resolute character. This happens to everyone not named Jordan, LeBron, Mahomes. This happens to all, even though you've completely beat the odds by getting here. You're better than everyone else at every step of the way until you're not. What's that like?
I don't know, it's hard. It's just all about believing in yourself. You know, I feel like there's always doubt, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. In the process of everything, there's always going to be some doubt, but that self-confidence, that positive talk to yourself just has to be a little bit louder, just a little bit louder. It ain't got to be nothing crazy, but enough to be able to silence the negative talk and everything and to keep continuing to grow. How
do you stay prepared when you're not playing?
Love, passion, faith. I think all those things are things that motivated me. You know, the biggest thing that I remember from my time in Jacksonville was that it was the first year I kind of went without getting good luck texts because I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And that was like probably my biggest inspiration was that like, dang, like this is something that I look forward to with my parents or friends or families that I cared about, reaching out to me pre-game and post-game and stuff like that. So that was probably the biggest thing that really lit a fire within me to just stay at it and to keep on believing.
Getting out of your comfort zone is like a big cliche. Everybody uses it now in corporate America. But I heard a story, and I want you to tell it because it's your story and you'll tell it better than I, that Coach LaFleur wanted to shake some things up at the Green Bay Packers. Everybody comes in, right? You got a placard by your name. You sit where you're supposed to sit. But imagine you came in here next week and everybody took a different seat. And Coach said, I want you to meet everybody, stand at a different spot, sit down at a different spot. And you took that moment, innocuous as it seems. Sometimes these moments don't appear to be super obvious. And what did you do when you found your new chair? Who did you end up next to?
So I ended up sitting next to Aaron Rodgers, about 2 seats down. I didn't plan on it, but as everyone got up and sat down and stuff, it seemed like no one wanted to get next to him. So, and Seneca kind of knows of why that may be with his energy and his demeanor sometimes, but you know, I took that upon myself. You know, sometimes you just gotta lean full tilt into the things that may be a little bit uncomfortable or not as exhilarating to do. And, you know, I figured as a wide receiver, the best relationship I should have was with the quarterback. And, you know, he's not too bad of one.
Tell me something about him that we don't know.
He's not as funny as he thinks he is. I want to lay that out there first. But he's a super caring, loving individual that I feel like a lot of people don't really see on camera. You know, just with the media and everything, you only get a snippet of him on, you know, 2-3 hours on Sunday. When during the week, I've seen him take care of people. I mean, he's put his arm around me, obviously, and he stood up on a table for me as an undrafted guy who hadn't made a team yet, to say that, you know, I deserved a spot and I earned a spot. And he's trusted me throughout my career so far. And, you know, I'm sure he'll continue to trust me in New York as well.
I'll give you one more pop quiz. In your first year, I know you signed with the Packers late after you got off the Jags practice squad. In your first year, how many times do you think you were targeted? Just targeted?
Shoot, I would say 50, 40.
Targeted, that very first year where you were there for like one game.
Oh, the 2018?
Yeah.
One time.
One time.
Yeah.
One time.
Mm-hmm.
One play.
One play, one target.
This past season, you know how many times you were targeted?
100.
100.
1 to 100. There we go.
I want to mention one thing about Coach Campbell. who had visited us at ESPN years ago. And just to give you a quick primer, we bring all these coaches. Years ago, we used to bring all of them. Coach Campbell was the only one, and he said this sincerely when I told him I had worked here for many years. He was the only coach of all the big coaches across America that said, if you're ever in town, come by the office. It just stuck with me. It's a small thing. This year, Iowa State is looking to have its first player drafted in the first round in 50 years. They have not had a first-round player drafted in 50 years. Let's hope it happens. But what does it say about Coach Campbell that you could have one of those and maybe the two best players that will end up coming out of Iowa State? One was undrafted and is sitting next to me, and the other was a whisker away from playing in the Super Bowl. What does that say about the type of gamut Coach has been able to put together?
Yeah, I think, Coach Campbell, but also his supporting staff as well, of just how they're able to cultivate, change the culture there, influence us, and really just, teach us great life lessons during our time there that, for me, continued on in my playing career, but to see my other former teammates and stuff still striving in the work field now. So yeah, I think Coach Campbell just done a great job of just being able to get us as a group of men, a group of kids really, to rally together, to believe in each other, and to fight for each other.
This is the question I'm most looking forward to asking, and I know there's a few more we want to get to as well with some of the work you've been doing with kids and veterans, the military. Do you think your story would have turned out better if you had gone the conventional route? In other words, did this happen for a reason? You really took the path less traveled.
I would say I took the path that I paved myself, it feels like. But no, and that's what, part of my career I've learned is that trying to write my own story usually doesn't necessarily work out. And it's just always about just kind of keeping an even keel, keeping strong in your faith, and just, for me, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe there's a reason why I went undrafted. There's a reason why I ended up in Jacksonville. There's a reason why I've been in Green Bay. And is there going to be a reason why I'm going to New York? What that is, I'm not exactly sure yet, but when I'll look back and understand in years to come. But it's always just about believing in yourself, staying true to yourself, and just doing everything with love and respect. You have a fondness and a soft spot for children in the military, which is an interesting combination. I want to start with the military because I remember watching you at this seems appropriate, the Army All-American game, right? I mean, what about the military strikes a chord with you? I think there's a lot of things that we can relate to as far as football players or just professional athletes in the military and what they do. I mean, they have to be super detailed on what they're doing every single day from sunup to sundown. And for us, we make a mistake, we're fortunate enough to be able to line it back up again and to play another down to correct that mistake. But those guys, they make a mistake, it could be result in their life or a fellow soldier's life as well. And that doesn't only affect them, but their families and everyone else. And for those guys, I've always just been inspired by them because they make the ultimate sacrifice to me. They're out there risking their lives every single day so we can sit here in peace and have a great conversation so I can pursue my goals and dreams. Absolutely.
Your mom, I think, hit on this in the video, but somebody said when it comes to kids, ask Alan about the crosswalk story. The crosswalk story. Yeah. Okay, so they're like, don't ruin it, just ask him about the crosswalk story. So tell me about the crosswalk story.
So my cousin, who resides in Ankeny, asked me to show up for, I think it was his last day. He was the chaperone for the kids crossing the street. It's on like an old highway. So he asked me one day to come and just kind of say hi to the kids, take pictures, sign autographs. And I believe I showed up at like 7:15 or something like that, stayed for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, took pictures, and yeah, it was a great time.
You said your goal is to play 10 years in the NFL. You're basically halfway there. What do you see in the next 50% for you?
A lot more catches.
You are a wide receiver.
A lot more touchdowns, but ultimately, I really see these next 5 years. These first 5 years of my career, I've really focused on myself, developing as an individual on and off the field to get to this point. And now that I've gotten to this point, my biggest goal is to have the biggest impact off the field and everything. And that's what started my brand, starting my foundation, coming back here, being present in the community. And that was the biggest thing for me, is that when I was growing up, I didn't really see anyone achieving at a high level that was from Iowa, especially not someone that looked like me. And so as much as I can be back here to inspire these kids, to motivate these kids, for them to realize that there's more to this world, there's more to this life, and that anything is possible, I want to do that.
Essentially, you want to be the person that you didn't have growing up.
Very much so.
Last couple things for you. Just meeting you tonight, I get the sense that it's amazing, your story, that you've made it to the NFL. I sense that is probably not what you're most proud of. What are you most proud of at this spot in your life where you've accomplished so much?
I think the thing I'm most proud of, going back to that one play, one attempt, one catch. When I got the phone call, it was on a Tuesday, 2 weeks prior to that game, and my agent had called me saying the Packers wanted to pick me up. And at that moment, I knew it was my do or die chance, basically. And when I got to Green Bay, I was diving in the playbook so much. And what a lot of people don't tell you, and Seneca can attest to this, is that there's a playbook, and then there's Aaron Rodgers' playbook.
Right.
And one of them's written down, and this other one, you just better learn. And so I tried to dive as much as I could into the playbook to consume as much of it, learn from the other guys, just because there wasn't too much communication on whether I was going to be playing this week, playing next week, or what the situation was going to be. All I knew for myself is that if I got on the field, it would be unjust to myself to not be fully prepared to be able to go out there and be successful. So fortunately, unfortunately, the offense, the Packers game, we played the Lions, I think it was like on December 30th of 2018, but I think historically they had like one of the worst offensive games.
That sounds like that.
And so, it was just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, so that no one was getting tired as a wide receiver to get a substitution. So eventually we got one drive going, and someone needed a sub, so I came in. I ran an under route from the outside, caught the ball, and unfortunately the DB got hurt as he made the tackle against me. And so they subbed me out, and that was it. But just to get to that point, to say that I was played in the NFL, I suited up, and for the Green Bay Packers of all teams, and Lambeau Field of all venues and everything. And for me to be able to do that at that moment, and still to this day, that's probably the most pride and joy I take in myself.
I'll tell you two things, and we'll call it a night here. I'm almost probably twice your age. I think 20 years from now, you won't remember who you talked to. You won't remember all the people in the room. I'm going to tell you this 100%. The only thing you'll remember is that your mom and dad were here.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you that. And I'm going to tell you one other thing. So I grew up in New Jersey, not far from the Jets facility. They're impatient fans, as you well know. They're not Midwest nice out there. It's a little different out there. It's not Iowa nice out there. You're lucky if they look at you. But there's a guy, it's a little before your time. You know a guy named Wayne Krebet? You ever heard of Wayne Krebet, probably before your time?
Yeah.
So for those in the audience that don't know, I'm going to challenge Alan. Wayne Krebet is not Joe Namath, but Wayne Krebet is beloved by Jets fans for 4 reasons. 1, he was a gritty wide receiver. 2, he played at Hofstra, where the Jets used to train. Now they train in New Jersey. But much like Iowa State, before Coach Campbell got there and started putting guys in the league left and right, Hofstra, not exactly a football factory. The 3rd, of course, he donned the green. But the real thing they loved about Wayne Krebet was that he was undrafted. So I challenge you to be up there one day in that ring of honor with Wayne Krebet and bring home the one thing that Wayne couldn't. And you thought it's been long since Iowa State's had a first-round pick. You should see how long it's been since the Jets have won the Super Bowl.
Fair enough.
You'll be playing a big part in that, and it was such an honor to meet you.
Yes.